Hi everyone, I'm Yashvir, and welcome to our audio channel, The Bro Code. So what's this channel about? The name suggests it's about your typical bro code, rules followed by guys, right? But this runs deeper than that. I guess we wanted to discuss how we have grown through life, and how various situations have shaped us. By the means of the podcast on this channel, we hope to say something meaningful and impactful that perhaps you can use in yours. So please join us in this inspiring journey. We hope it helps you in some way. Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to another one of our podcast episodes. I guess this one will be our last for the year. It's been an amazing year thus far for us on this podcast. And this episode's a bit more of a recap and I guess wish for the year coming, and just for us to round up the year and just discuss what kind of we did wrong, what we look forward to in the next year, and how do we prepare for that for that next year coming. It's as I mentioned, another year has passed, and I usually think it's always a good idea to take stock of your year and what needs improvement, to see what needs improvement. It's also a good idea to, I guess, bear in mind that you can't be too hard on yourself if you didn't actually meet targets in the year, or didn't do things throughout the year, or didn't even succeed at certain things in the year. But we'll discuss some of those later on. Today we have with us once again Prush and Dean. How are both of you
Hello.
today?
Hey,
Yeah, doing good.
I'm
And
good.
yourselves?
Good. All good,
All
mate.
good
All
here.
good.
All good here. I mean, we're drawing closer to the end of the year, guys. I mean, like a lot of our companies are closing for the holidays this week, even some perhaps even closed last week. I know Prash has been on holiday this week as well, so it's been some period
Holiday.
of calm for him.
Little
Must be
bit.
nice.
Little bit. Yes. Just taking extra time, man. This year's been long.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's been a hell of a road, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it you know what it felt like, really? It felt like 2019 stretched, or 2020 stretched, excuse me, rather.
Yeah, it just felt like one big year mushed into
That's
one.
really what it really felt like for me. It didn't feel like a
The
separate year
testament,
as an entity.
the literal testament to what you said was it felt like 2019 stretched. Oh, wait. No, it's 2020.
That is so apt.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Illustrating the point live there, Captain.
No, I mean, we did have some crazy moments. So I guess we all have had experienced that. So
For sure.
what were your years like? Retrospectively, what is it like for you this year?
Uh, if I can go first.
Yeah,
Good.
go for it.
Go for it. Go for it, dude. Go for
Good.
it.
It was good, but frustrating, but good. Look, it depends. Like in different areas of my life, some were great, right, and amazing, and then some were just like, "Wow, what am I still doing?" It's like I think with COVID, you can progress some areas of your life much easier than others. I don't know if that makes sense,
Yes,
right?
it
Yeah, it
does. Yes, it
does.
does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
For
because
example,
like you
for
can do
example,
so much.
social is not going to happen so much.
Yeah,
Well, in
right,
our
right,
circles at
but
least, right? We didn't
yeah,
socialize a lot this year, and the previous year, to be
yeah.
honest.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the social, I mean, how many of our discussions were part of these podcasts more than we spoke about like other stuff?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
like your weekend time has largely been your own, like your social time, like evenings and stuff. I mean, you aren't using that time to go out and do things. So I mean,
yeah,
you're stuck at home and you're stuck with yourself. So
yeah.
it
As an
is what it
introvert,
is.
it's great, right? Because, like, I
Yes,
mean,
true.
it's the time that you beg for your whole life and now you get it. But also,
Yeah.
We've been training
but
for
now
our
you,
entire
yeah,
lives.
but it's like now someone is feeding you all the time that you've ever wanted in your life. And now you're like, okay, what do I? you don't realize it, but you're getting more of the time that you wanted than you actually need.
Yeah, would you think that's healthy or unhealthy for them?
It's
Just
unhealthy.
speaking to introverts perspective. And,
Depends on what you
Well, look,
define as healthy.
I would say, when those people say too much of anything is a bad thing. Uh,
sure.
Mm.
it gets to that level. I mean, you should be able to do a mix of everything. You can't do too much of anything. Too much, even too much of healthy stuff is not healthy after a while.
Yeah,
Unless it's
I'd
like,
agree.
yeah. So like, yeah, but I mean, like, throughout the year, especially in South Africa, we've been able to balance, because I mean, closer to the end of the year and even in the beginning of the year, the waves weren't so bad, so you could go out and do stuff. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that sort of created balance, but also the other frustrating side is, I mean, like, I think because we're still in that stage of our lives where we still work for people, right? Instead of
Mm.
working for ourselves, mostly, right? We still work for other people because it's like the base
Yeah.
income, right? It still creates that level of frustration, and I think that's where most of our frustrations would come from, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
I think that's more around where the frustration comes from. But for me, the rest of the year was pretty good. I mean, we made quite a few leaps and bounds in a lot of other areas of our lives. So yeah, it was good. And
I mean, it's a mix of
Dean?
positives and not so positives, but I mean, it's good you look at
And lessons, positives
yes,
and
lessons.
lessons.
Yes.
Yes,
It's that's
yeah,
that's the way we always look at things, in a different light. So, Dean,
yes.
how was your year retrospectively?
I'd agree with a lot of what Good said. Yeah, it's definitely been a year of lessons. It's been a year of taking stock, um, foundation work, recovery work. Um, it's been a lot of contrast as well. I mean, there's been some really happy moments, some really sad moments, some moments of massive growth, and moments of complete and utter stagnation. Um, so yeah, it's been quite a year, and most of that being done from my house. So surprising
Mm.
in many ways.
But
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
good. I mean,
yeah.
you have, like, other than like the losses and stuff, um, the rest of the year you kind of have to have moments of stagnation, because I've started looking at it as, it's not really stagnation. It's a point where you have to learn how to pivot.
Mm.
Or
If
grow
anybody
beyond
got
that
Friends
that
point.
reference
reference.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
if
it's
anybody
a
got that reference. But yeah, it's like a
friends.
point
Yep.
where, when you stagnate, right? It's also a thing of, I know you can't be thinking all the time, right? But like, when you get stagnant, it's like, oh, what am I not learning from this?
Yeah, like, or what am I
Yeah,
missing that would help me
yeah, yeah,
progress beyond
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But you can't always be learning. Sometimes you want to be stagnant. It helps to just stop for a while.
recovery. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's good. I think it's good.
I
no,
think
it's
I
all
think
in
one
balance, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think in one other area, I guess, I'll use an example from my year, where I hit a peak, or I had actually hit a target, and there was a period after that of slump, for example. Like I
Mm,
achieved something really good for myself,
mm,
and then I just slumped for a bit. And
mm,
then toward the latter half of the year, then I started picking up again.
mm.
I mean, I guess that's normal in some cases. Like you hit a massive high, and then okay, there's now this valley that's coming in
Yeah.
because you had a lot of effort to get to that
Mm,
level, and then now you just kind of
yeah.
take your foot off the gas pedal, if I
I
can
was about to say,
liken
how
it
much
to
effort did you have to put in to get that high?
a fair amount of effort, dude. It took that Thanos thing. Like, what did it cost?
Everything.
Everything. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. No,
there's your
it
answer.
it, it cost it
You
cost a lot.
required a moment of rest after
Yeah,
putting in so much. You naturally do need to just take a minute and recover and replenish, because
yeah.
you outlaid quite a lot of resources to get something.
Mm.
No, exactly.
I, yeah.
And I don't think people should like feel bad. Like like people who have lots of plans or plan out their year, and high achievers
Mm.
always say they need to be doing things, be
Yeah.
consistently busy to feel like they're achieving, to feel like they're moving forward. You don't always have to be like that.
Yeah.
It's just you take things at your own pace anyway. Like for me, as an
Yeah,
example,
agreed.
I love achieving things, but I know there are going to be moments where there are going to be lull moments or dead moments. So
Mm.
I don't, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it's like, don't be too hard on yourself for anything that any missteps that you take during this time.
Yeah.
Sometimes a chilled weekend where you sit in your PJs and eat pizza on the couch and do nothing productive by definitions of productive that day, those are just as important. Obviously,
I
don't
did
do it
that
like
did
every
last week.
weekend,
I did
but
that last
like
week.
once in a while, it's good to just unwind, decompress, and recuperate.
Hmm. Agreed. Agreed. Agreed.
So okay, so I do have a question. When you
Hmm.
say that you had this period of like non-productiveness, right?
Hmm.
How long was the period?
It was a month.
Okay. So the rest of the year you were productive.
Pretty much productive. Yeah.
So 11 months out of a 12-month year you were productive.
A lot of people
Yeah.
will be very happy with that.
I would consider that a win, dude. Like in the plus column, right? I
So
look, I
like
know.
8% downtime or something
No. I'm not.
ridiculous.
I'm not counting it. I'm
No, no,
not like I'm
no,
saying.
no.
I'm not counting it
I get it,
as a
I get it
loss.
fully.
It's
I understand what you're
yeah.
saying, right? I would just say that because I know the type of person you are. It's very scheduled.
Yeah.
It's very how
Goal
would I even
oriented,
put it?
pretty structured. Yeah, structured.
Structured, blockalized is the word I like to use. But
Hmm.
now, yeah, I think that because I'm the other way, right? I don't like I was telling you guys in the after the previous podcast that like I need to actually maybe look at like doing all of this, look how I want to spend my year and what my targets are and all of that stuff, right? So maybe to try and do that for the next year. So I'm the other way. I would consider like when Dean says spend every weekend chilling doing nothing. I like to do that because I like to
Hmm.
work hard for the 5 days and then chill for two, right?
Hmm.
Now, a lot of people are like not as productive. Like I would definitely say out of a 12-month year, I was probably productive for like four, right? Out of the 12, whereas you were like 11 out of 12. No, I'm not comparing, right? I'm not comparing because like we have different levels of growth, right? I grew up in a different area, you grew up in a different area. No, I mean, you grew in one area, I grew in one area, right? But like it's impressive to see that that's why I asked. It's impressive to see that you are productive for 11 months out of a 12-month year, which is like quite
Yeah,
insane.
it's mighty impressive, mate.
Yeah.
I
I'd
mean,
say
like,
maybe I
if I
got
can
somewhere
use,
between 7 and 8
if you can
months of
use something else,
productivity
another one of our
myself.
peaks right now. Like I was
Yeah.
telling Dean yesterday that two of the apps just got approved into the app stores
Excellent.
as another one of our
Well done.
milestones.
Yeah.
Um,
What are the names? Then I can see them.
yeah, you've already been familiar with them because you've been testing them.
Oh, I was testing them. Okay.
Yes, you were testing them. So yeah, so the apps were released in the app store. So
Yeah.
that's just things like that. But I'm not. Um, you mentioned like productivity throughout the year, your productivity throughout the year,
Hmm.
um, and mine as well. And it's like you also mentioned that I'm the person that has to be structured. Remember, if we go back to like the first podcast, I always say that my life is fully structured, fully this
Hmm.
thing, and has to have these plans in it. Not to say, and by the way, I've always mentioned this. Like even if things come in the way of the plans, I'm very flexible and I don't fall fall down because things are not going according to those plans.
Yeah.
But yeah, that speaks to that. Just why I like to stay active and stay productive. That's it. It's just a plan of mine
That's
during
good.
that I make during the beginning of the year.
Good job.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Job.
So, are there any things that you perhaps would change this year? And would you carry that forward? Would you carry that change forward into the next year? What do you see
Just
could have changed this year? And if you do see the change, are you carrying that forward?
Gene, you want to go first?
I probably wouldn't change anything because like the things that I didn't quite succeed at, they also came with lessons. So I don't want to forego the lessons. I'd rather keep the lessons. Um, and those lessons can be carried forward. Lessons being a lot of it was just understand yourself on a better level and play to your own strengths rather than play to the environment. Um, yeah, I don't think there's anything I would change from the year,
Mm-hmm.
as in like things that I had the power to affect. That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's me. Good.
Not be so hard on myself. Like, you make mistakes throughout the year, and then you
Yeah,
need to like learn from them. But also, it's like you have emotional attachment to the mistakes that you make. You
Yeah.
know,
correct. Yes, yeah.
and
I mean,
that's something that I
you
like
judge
to.
yourself because based on the success or how successful you are in something.
Well, more the other way. Say you make a mistake, right? And
Mm.
now you're like, okay, I made a mistake, but you've because you link an emotional attachment to that mistake.
Yeah,
You don't get you don't you can learn from it, but you don't release the issue because it's still emotional to you, you know?
yeah,
And that's where the problem comes in. So it's something that I need to obviously still. It happens to everybody, right? It'll
Yes.
happen to everybody at any stage. It's just you will still link something emotionally to yourself, and you have to learn how to release that emotion. So it's something that I just like to keep improving, I suppose.
do you tie
So
that at
that's
all
our take.
to your self worth
Two.
in any way? In any way, your self
That's where
worth.
the problem comes in. So you'll
Mm.
naturally, that's where the problem comes in. So when you tie you something to, you're tying it to your ego, right? You're not
Mm.
tying it to your self worth, but you're tying it to your ego because your ego is like, oh, I'm worth more than this.
Hmm.
And when even, you see, the problem is even after you realize that it's your ego that's the problem, right? You still, it's not easy to forget, you know?
Yeah, the ego doesn't go
So
quietly.
Correct. Yeah.
right. So you need to
Yeah.
learn how to deal with that issue. So it's something that you just have to learn how to deal with over time.
Hmm.
The more conscious you are of it, the better, though. I mean, as long as you're always conscious of it, it becomes easier.
Yeah, not true. But that's obviously something that I like to, because I learn a lesson every year. That like sometimes I relearn the same lessons, but it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I mean that's something. I think that what you mentioned now is something that a lot of people do. Um, I'm going to say suffer with. I don't know if there's a better word, um, but they do those things themselves as well. Judge themselves too
Yeah,
harshly
yeah,
for some things. I
yeah.
also can identify with that too.
We all do
Um,
it, man. We all do it
yes,
with
yes,
people, right?
That's true.
I mean, you
That's
can't get
very
away
true.
from it. If
mm,
you didn't judge yourself for stuff, I mean, okay, firstly, you should be the only judge of the stuff that you've done. But like if you don't judge yourself for stuff, how are you ever gonna like set a meter or a bar or a, you know?
And how do you like assess yourself objectively then?
Yeah,
You know?
essentially.
mhm,
And how do you identify the areas of growth you need? If you're not judging
yes.
yourself, you'll never be able
Yeah.
to do that.
I mean, you're always going to hold yourself to a particular standard,
Hmm.
Right.
and I guess
Exactly.
that standard is something that you have to agree upon. At, I don't know
With
when, but at
yourself.
some point,
Yeah.
at some point in your life, you need to agree upon a certain standard that you're going to hold yourself to and hold yourself accountable to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Whether like so, I mean, for the coming year, if you do have any plans, um, like, do you hold yourself accountable at the beginning of the year to say, okay, cool, I'm going to this is something that I'd like to improve on in this year.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, I'm going to take stock again and see, okay, what did I actually reach that point?
I think
Yeah.
you've
What
got
were
to
the
do it
pluses? What were the
or you have to set yourself intervals. So, I mean,
mm,
one example would be like you agree on what your targets are that you want to achieve this year. And you tell yourself when you'd like to achieve it by throughout the course of the year. And you could maybe say to yourself, right, every month I'm going to check how far I've gotten or how much progress I've made. Um, as long as I've taken steps towards it, I'm happy. But by this point, I need to be at least halfway there, or by this point, I need to have achieved it. And you've got to regularly hold yourself accountable. It's not a case of I
Right.
set the target in January and in December I'm going to see how I did,
mm.
because you're probably going to
Yeah.
miss. I mean, there are probably a few
You'll probably
individuals that
forget
can do
about it.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but or you might wake up in June and go, "Ah, shit, I was supposed to do this," and now you got 6 months less to do it in. So
Mm.
you have to regularly hold yourself accountable. So call it milestones, call it contact meetings with yourself, or reporting sessions with yourself. Call it whatever you like, but regularly hold yourself accountable.
and
Yeah, I
adjust
mean,
along the
look,
way as it
yeah,
goes.
Yes, I
you
mean,
hear
yeah, you're
people like
talking about being able to pivot, and there it is. Like
that.
be able to
Yeah,
adapt to the situation. Yes, Ross.
yeah, but that's it's also one of those things. Like I was listening to a talk by Jordan Peterson the other day, and he's like, people need structure, and I was like, yes, yes, we know. But like what you're saying is literally an aspect of that, right? If you don't have structure, I mean, you don't you, you have no milestone, you have no ruler, you have no thing to grow against.
Yardstick, yeah, nothing.
Yeah, yeah, it's stick.
And
Yeah.
and it's as I've always been on this podcast, I've always said before a particular point in time, I didn't have that structure, which is why I baked it into my entire being right now to have that sort of thing.
Will you always have that structure in your life going forward,
Yes, now, yes, 100%.
like forever?
Me,
Yeah,
yeah, I think so. I think the basic building blocks of a life need to have some form of structure. Like I'm not saying it's the exact same thing for everyone. For example, if I give you three, one of those blocks that we used to love playing with as kids, those wooden blocks. If I
yeah,
give you
yeah,
three of those blocks and I tell you to lay a platform, you might lay a platform all three on the ground. I might lay a platform 2-1. Dean might lay a platform
yeah, yeah.
differently as well. So I'm saying that the structure for your life is unique to you and
Yeah.
always be unique to me, but it helps me build a base from.
Mm.
It gives me a reference point. It gives me things to start from.
So for
So
you specifically, you like to have that continuous structure all the time,
yeah, yeah.
like
But
going forward for the
but
rest of
also
your
as
life.
I've mentioned as well, I'm not very rigid on it. Like it, like if I need to cut edges with a hacksaw to make things work, I'll cut those edges and make them work. I'm very flexible. It's not I'm
Oh,
not
that's fair.
rigid, and I don't say if my life is not built according to the structure, it's not going to work. Then I don't have those rules anymore.
Yeah,
In my
that's
life.
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You focus more on the outcome, and the structure is something that
Outcome
helps you
and
get that
journey.
outcome.
So it's not so much of the outcome
Mm.
for me. Really,
Yeah.
it's more the journey that's more important.
Mm.
How I
Okay.
get there
Makes sense.
is more important than the outcome for me.
Mm.
Fair enough.
So, do any of you made any plans for the new year, or what do you plan to do in the new year? If you haven't, that's cool, because this is just a reflection episode anyway.
Yeah,
Have you all thought about anything for the new year
yeah,
and have
yeah,
started thinking about
yeah.
Tell us, good. Tell us.
it? Yeah, I've just been hearing yeah.
I mean, how have
Tell
you? I
us.
mean, I'm so sure you guys already started making plans at the end of November, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm. Yeah.
Of course, right? Because I'm so sure everybody was like at the end of November they were like, okay, it's December, right? And I'm just gonna go on holiday, but next year I need to do A B C D, right? Everybody does that, or is it just
Hmm.
me?
No.
I'm
I
It's
sure
think it's
everywhere.
fairly
everybody
That's
does
what
natural.
it is.
It's fairly natural.
Hmm.
I
I'm
mean,
sure
we've been
everybody does
conditioned
that.
since birth that new year and new things,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's like
And I
school,
don't know.
everything. It's all about
So we're
doing
not going to
stuff with new
associate
year.
this to New Year resolutions, right? The ones that
yeah,
people make but
yeah.
don't keep.
Look,
We're not going to equate
so
it to
that's
that. We're
yeah.
doing something
Remember
else.
last time we were discussing it, and I was like, I'm trying to break that mold, right? I'm
Yeah.
trying to break the mold of um, new year, new me, new things, new targets, right?
How many?
Yeah.
Okay. So by the way,
Right.
let's take a bet now. How many of those posts we see? New Year, new me. Okay.
I
Oh,
How
dude,
don't
many
think
I'm
we
can
can
we
already
see?
count.
seeing them.
We're
I'm
not going to be
already
able to
seeing
count
them.
it, dude.
I'm
Okay.
already
We
I'm
seeing
going to
won't
them.
say
be able to
five. I'm
count.
going to say five. I'm going to say five. Right?
That is
Oh,
We
more
frightening
than
largely
that.
low.
have the same circles,
For sure,
but we
more
also
than
have
that. More
more.
than that. For sure, more than
Okay.
that.
There's going to
Okay,
be
no,
more than
but wait,
five.
hold on, hold on. No, no, to clarify, it doesn't have to specifically say new year, new me. Anything with
Right.
a person that comes with resolutions, the word
Oh. Okay.
resolution
Cool.
or new
Right.
year,
Your whole
new
address
me,
book.
or anything like that, bro. I'm telling you, at least 50% of people do that shit,
Okay.
right?
Cool. Okay. Cool. Right.
But
Let's.
but
Let's.
but
Yeah.
but as I said after one of our discussions, I'm actually going to do that. But I'm going to do it from a point of I don't usually do it, right? But I'm trying to break the mold of let's have this December period and then January period where everything turns over a new leaf. That for me was the most frustrating thing my whole life because it always was just like we have to start again. Why am I starting again? right? I always looked at it like that. I'm like, why am I
Mm.
starting again? Why do I have to start? Why can't I just carry on from what I was doing before? But obviously,
Yes,
because I
100%. Exactly.
right? What is the starting again
Sorry, I
nonsense,
sound very
right?
passionate about that. But
No, no, that's fine, right? I mean, it
That's
makes
fine.
I'll
sense.
tell you why in a minute.
Everybody's like, yes, new year, I'm gonna start training. Like, okay, I understand it, right? December period. The only thing I understand about training is that December period you're allowed to eat junk because you go home and it's Christmas, right? I can fully
Christmas
get
lunch
that,
is a
right? So
shit show for your diet.
January, January, I'm gonna start again, right? And I'm gonna train. That's the only thing I get. All the other stuff I don't get. Why are you starting again next year when it was last year was not next? It's like, come on, it was last week. So what I
Yeah, exactly.
but like
What
okay,
changed in that
I
week?
yeah. But what I want to do is I need to spend the December period because this is okay. So the only other thing is that the December period is the only period that I actually get to myself, right? Because the
Sure.
rest of the year you're working, right? So
Mm.
when I get this period, it gives you the time to actually set the goals that you want to set, which is that I can fully understand. If people don't have goals like me, I didn't have goals, right? But for the next year, I want goals, but I can't set them if I don't have the time to set them or even think about them, right?
Hmm.
So I I would like to do that, but don't have it so that you set the goal in January and you say by like Dean was saying, you check in December. That's not the thing. You should set the goal realistically for how long you think it should take to complete that goal and check then. Don't give yourself 12 months for something that should take 6.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
So you're saying
Yes.
So
your December like chill period is actually you're going to use it as like a personal strategy session.
So what I would say is, and this is what I've been doing for the last 2 years, but I didn't realize I was actually prepping myself for something even better, right? Every quarter I take a week off, right?
Mm.
Because I use public holidays to my advantage, right? So I get a period of 4 or 5 days within every quarter where you can take like 1 or 2 days of leave and you get a decent stretch of time, right? Which in South Africa we're lucky with because we have a crap ton of public holidays, so we can do
We
that,
do.
right?
We're very lucky.
So if you use quarters, just like the financial year, you use quarters to use your measuring stick. By December, you can actually use it as a uh, another quarter. You understand what I'm saying? If you
Yeah,
look at
like
it
you
that way,
should
Yes.
report to
Yes. Yes.
yourself. Like you're the
It's
main
quarterly.
stakeholder in
Yeah.
your life. You
Quarterly
should
reporting.
yes,
report back into what did I do for myself over this quarter.
right. But there's dangers in that, right? So you now create a faster lifespan or a shorter lifespan. You have it's like when you I think code you'd use this a lot. Like you guys use words like sprints and things, right?
Mm.
It's essentially that you instead of creating long-term projects for your life, right? Do things in shorter bursts, right?
Yeah,
Set
manageable
Sure.
smaller
bite-sized
goals,
pieces.
right? So you actually cutting your year into 4 pieces, and then you cut your goals into 4 pieces, which means it becomes smaller, and that's what I plan on doing. So that is something that I think is so important. Like, but also like you are asking me, did I have anything planned? Yes, I did. I want to um, I want to lose weight some more. So that continues onwards because we started a couple months ago, but we fell off the bandwagon because we were busy, and then we're picking it up again and we're doing it. So all of that stuff, right? So you get into that pattern. But
Yeah,
if you and I found like what code is saying is like 100% on point. If you don't structure, it's gonna fall apart for sure, right? Because people need structure, and I found that when I was measuring things and tracking them, and it makes sense, it works, right? But now do it for the rest of your life. Don't just do it in one area, do it for all areas.
Yeah.
And you find it's easier because when you write things down, right, it helps. It does. It
awareness.
allows you to
Awareness
take all
is
that blur
the
that's in your
ticket.
head and put it on paper, and then it becomes cemented.
It's in the universe, right? You aiming toward that. You're putting that out there
Well, I
already.
was aiming for it's not in the abyss of your brain and
Oh yeah.
shows up every time you remember it, but it's more of
Sure.
a thing that's on paper.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
But
Cool.
yes, you're also putting it out into the universe. That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for
Yeah.
me, the last couple of years, I learned something that like I don't set resolutions; I set next steps along the
Yeah.
journey. So it's
Fantastic. Yes.
always
I
like,
like that.
what is I mean, so I needed to do certain things. There were certain non-negotiables, and then there are things that I really wanted to do. Some of the things that I really wanted to do, I didn't quite get around to or never succeeded at, and that was around most of the personal business stuff. But the non-negotiables, particularly around self-development, those were not completions. Those were foundation work, and that's now been laid. Next year,
Mm.
like I said, it's not next. I'm not setting resolutions. I'm setting next steps. Those next steps are the continuation of the work done this year.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's a long project, but you break it up into pieces, and that's
Mm.
exactly what I've been doing. And because you position it as next step instead of resolution, because you're saying it's the next step, you know that you've already committed stuff. You've committed time, resources, energy, and work's been done. So you can't now just leave it undone. You have to push on because you've invested in things like that.
For sure. For sure.
Agreed, man.
I like that.
Yeah, no,
I
I
do
like
like
that.
that
I
because
do.
I was listening to Kevin Hart, right? And
Mm.
he's funny, right? And everything, which is great.
Mm.
But he also says stuff like, you must finish what you've started, right? And I think
Yes.
it's important.
I've
If you
seen that
start
video.
something,
Yeah.
right? If you start something, even if you finish it half-assed, right? Get to some point of closure. Because if you close that book, right? It's I think Yash and I worked on a project a long time ago. Couple of years ago where we were trying to design something or whatever. But we ended up finishing it, right? We actually built
Yeah.
a prototype that worked.
Yeah.
And at that point, you find that you actually have some sort of, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it worked, right? And the minute we got to that point, we were like, okay, we did it, but is it going to take us anywhere? And we decided at that point, obviously, probably not. But we finished it. And that was the point. So I found that was, it makes so much sense what you're saying that even though everything is next year and you're moving from one step or one stage of whatever you plan to the next stage, even though it's going across years, you're aiming for a target and you don't leave it halfway,
Yeah, I mean,
which I
why
think
should
is
you? You've
very good.
invested so much to just make that amount of
Exactly.
progress. You know,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it's and that's why you should never see it as I'm starting again every year. Exactly what you said. It's not. I'm
Yeah.
starting from a place that I'm continuing the work I've done.
Yeah. Unless it's detrimental to your health, then obviously okay. Right?
Yeah, I
But I
mean,
mean,
don't set a target to smoke an extra 10 packs a day. That's not gonna happen.
I mean, if you want to get into the Guinness Book of World Records, maybe, but other than that, not
what's
so
Yeah,
much.
next
being
to
died
that
the
record
next
will be
day?
yeah, exactly. There'll be another book that you go into.
Yikes, that's a bit harsh, Dean.
Hey, sometimes the truth is it hurts. It is what it is.
Oh man.
Rather tell me the truth than then tell me the lie.
Oh man, that's damn straight, Bam. Damn straight. Damn
Yeah.
straight.
And you, Yash?
Um yeah, so I'm going to, like you, Guj, I'm going to use the time to settle off this year. So I haven't fully completed my evaluation of my year yet.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
once
Yash
that's
is giving
done,
himself a
then
performance review.
Yeah.
no, I
Listen,
mean, listen, I hold
nothing wrong
myself
with that.
accountable with everything, dude. With
Yeah.
everything, you'll
Yeah.
you'll know I hold myself to a standard that's me,
Yeah.
um, and I'm quite critical of that. Like during this entire year of the podcast, when I was critical of myself, you all told me to be a bit less so. You also told me to use different words even during this podcast. So I do hold myself accountable, and so I'm going to finish that off. Hopefully, I'll be done by this weekend. Just looking at everything that I've had planned for the year.
Hmm.
And then thereafter, I'm going to start what I need to do for the new year. Um, put those on paper, um, and give them like proper timelines, like Dean was saying, achievable targets, micro
Mm.
targets even as well. To get some wins on the plate early, to
Yeah.
set me up for more wins later on.
I love
So
that
yeah,
momentum. That's a very
yes,
good idea.
yeah. I mean, it's idea of like
I'm
chunking
gonna
it
write
up
that
to little
down.
pieces, because a big goal seems too big if you break something up. So I always say, if I'm gonna use something very simple and rudimentary.
Yeah.
If you want to live a healthier lifestyle, for example, a lot of people will say, okay, go to gym and eat right, but I won't say that. I will say, okay, why don't you increase your water intake by half a glass today, and then next week increase it by 1 glass, every day, things like
Mm.
that. So it's tiny things, but that tiny thing is a win because it's getting you to your goal of being healthy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And
It
you can build
provides
up
it.
that
Yeah,
you can build
yeah.
up that up to something bigger as well. So sorry, continue, good.
No, no. What I'm saying is, what you're doing there is you're creating habit, right? You're habit
Yeah,
forming,
yeah,
right? And habit forming is much better than like motivation forming habits. Habits that
yes.
are formed through continuous repetition are much better than habits that are formed through just motivation. Although
Because
motivation is a good
motivation
Kickstarter,
wanes, right? As well.
yeah, it wins. But habits like I started this year not drinking much water. Now I drink like at least 2 liters a day, and I don't
Hmm.
notice it. I just do, right? But it's habit formed.
Yes, it's like muscle memory now, almost.
It's
You'll
very
be
good.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
So
you
so
have
that's the
to.
way I
Literally.
kind of build things in, big things in,
Yeah,
for me.
it's good. It's good.
Yeah. So probably by the new year, I'll have what I need to do for the for that new year,
No,
2022.
but that's the way I see it now. I wanna try it for at least a year because I feel like every time. Maybe a year is a good period to use or whatever, which people do. But I feel like you should pick a specific time period, and if there's something you want to try, you must do it with your life. Because I mean, when else are you gonna try stuff? You
There's
know?
that saying, right? Which all of us have seen. It's like you can't just go through life anymore. There needs to be some sort of impact or driving force that's going to take you there. Well, that driving force and
Yeah,
impacts, I guess, like, is you. Firstly, only you are
yeah,
going to take you to that next stage of your life. But you just
yeah,
can't just go through and be a spectator in your own life anymore.
yeah.
And by having these sorts of plans or pre-plans or whatever, you actually take that driving seat role going
Mm.
forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk that talked about the odds of being born are like one in a few billion.
Mm.
I mean, you're not just here for the lols, dude. Like, make the most of it.
For the lols. Yeah, no, no, true. That's it. But you know, I, we even witness this in our circle as well. That people do take this life for granted and just take things a bit easy. So
Yeah,
we've seen that you can fall into a pit, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. That's why you have to have a support structure to pull you out if you can't do it yourself.
Yeah,
Nothing
100%
wrong
so.
with asking for help, people.
Oh, and not isolate yourself, I guess, as well. I mean, maybe people have isolated themselves this year, which was a bad thing.
yeah. It comes to also a point where the person has to decide for themselves. You know, because
True.
you can only help somebody that's actually asking for help.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. But then there's also that catch, Guj, that sometimes people just don't know how to ask for help, and
No,
they
of course,
they kind of
of
pray that
course.
people just magically walk into their lives. For example, I'm going to use really sad people. I'm going to use perhaps the worst case of pain and sadness. I guess is suicide. Those the people who commit
Yeah,
suicide. Like it's not like they don't have friends and they don't have close people. It's just
yeah.
they
It's the
just
lucky
want
few that
someone
got
to walk
saved
into their
from these
life.
things. It's the
Yeah,
lucky few that get saved from these things.
That's
yeah.
true.
Okay. And lastly, I guess this is just to sum up our short podcast. This one is probably shorter than the ones we've had before. Do you have
Oh, is
any
this the
advice
last
to leave?
question?
This is a
Well, I
much
mean,
shorter podcast than
we are going to have we
it
are going to
really
have a
is.
little conversation afterward about our plans for the podcast anyway. But this
Yes,
is,
yeah,
I guess, closing off this year, um,
In review.
our podcast for the year, our year end review. Uh,
yeah.
just do you have any advice to leave the people with, before we kind of sign off for the year in this podcast?
Have a good end of year, Christmas period.
I like that.
Relax. Enjoy the time off. Spend it with people that you want to spend it with. Don't spend it with people that you don't want to spend it with.
100%.
For
Very true.
reals.
Advice I would give people taking it into the new year: fight for the life you deserve, because your life is too short to live a life you don't deserve and feel miserable about it. So you're going to have to put the work in, but fight for the life you deserve. It's just so much more worth it.
Yeah, that's true, man. Like a lot of people just mosey on through life, not knowing that there could be better things for them out there if they just take the chances and work toward it. If,
Stop
Yeah,
talking
if
about
no
people.
one's told you this, if nobody's told you this, we're telling you, you deserve nice things. You deserve a happy life. Go out and get it.
yep, yep. If anything, that we've always used each other as examples here, based on what we've managed to accomplish in the short space of a few years, and perhaps even just this year. A lot of you can too. Life's this never-ending road. Dean, here's the analogy that I'm using that I told you I was going to use before the podcast.
Oh boy.
Mhm.
Life's this never-ending road, man. It's filled with amazing peaks, the deepest of valleys, the windiest of meanders along the way, and the most epic and fast straights, and that's life. And you gotta have the courage and have the strength to navigate all of those things. And we know you can. This year we've discussed some tools on how you can do these things, how you can improve yourself, how you can grow through every day. And we always hope for the best of humanity to come out, I guess, which is why we started this podcast in the first place. We want to help people. And the simplest way that we can do that is just talking life through. So,
Sharing.
like Guj, yeah, and sharing our experiences. So like Guj has mentioned as well, we do wish you an incredible end of year, a very peaceful one,
No
an
drama.
enjoyable one.
No
No
drama.
drama,
The,
no
the
drama,
drama.
no.
The drama ended with the F1 yesterday. Okay.
I
I
knew
was
he was
so
going to
happy
fight about
Hamilton
what
lost.
was it.
I was so
Yeah.
happy Hamilton lost. But
I
anyway,
wasn't happy with the way that ended. I really wasn't.
we
I
we
wanted
can
a
You know what?
race where they were
This
both on
this
good
wait,
tires and I
Dean.
just gun it both
This
towards the
is
end.
this is a very very good example that I'd love to use for people.
okay, cool.
Right.
Go ahead.
Mm.
The F1 and how it ended is so much like life, right? You can
Yes,
literally be winning so hard, right? And then something trips you up at the end, right?
Some ass crashes his car.
And right, and it may not even impact your life, but the ripple effect will impact you. So you don't even see how something else happening can affect you, right?
yeah.
That's true. It's
And
very
Third
also
true.
you
party
can
something.
be
Yeah.
losing so hard, right? You can be 10-0 down and the ref says next goal wins and you score that next goal, right? Which is basically what happened yesterday, right? But
It's true. You're never out of it. I like that. It's like
you have
just
to
always keep
understand.
your chin up and fight till the end because you're never
Exactly,
out of it.
exactly, exactly.
I love
Now,
that.
understand something about that, what happened, right? And obviously, for those people that don't watch F1, basically, driver A was kicking driver B's ass the whole race, right? And driver B won because of some other circumstance that literally put him in a position to win. And he won, right? But a lot of people are complaining about how unfair it was, right? Here's
But
the
driver
lesson.
driver A should not have been winning from the beginning because he took a big advantage on turn one. But anyway,
No,
It
you see,
wasn't on
they
turn
make
one; it was turn
provisions.
four.
They make
But
turn
no,
four,
that
turn
was
four.
turn
okay, no,
one.
no, no, guys,
Yes,
But they
let's
make
let's not go.
provisions in turn one,
Let's not go
and he
into
was never
exactly
catching
what
it.
happened. No, 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 Dean. Let's not go into exactly what happened. Right. The point is that the lesson was in the last lap of the race. Right.
yes,
Literally,
Agreed, agreed.
literally, the lesson was in the last.
that's
It's
life.
literally tortoise and hare. If you look at the scenario, it's tortoise and hare. The hare literally ran his ass off, and the tortoise literally took the right times to make the right moves. Right. But the difference is that if you
It's not quite
learn
the same
from
because the hair was complacent.
Dean, right? The point is there's a
Don't
lesson at
distract
the
us.
end.
Don't
You
distract
don't
us.
need to look at the
That's my
technicalities
point.
because but you see, this is my point though, right? Emotionally, it's so charging, right? But what you need to do is learn from both the winner and the loser, right?
Yeah,
Learn from Hamilton and learn from the fact that even though he lost, right, the guy may be so frustrated and angry, but there's a lesson in that, right? And it's a lesson that he will need to learn. But also, if Verstappen is a very good driver, it's something that he will learn from as well. At any given time in your life, right, you can fall over, right? But at any given time in your life, you can be kicked down, fallen over already, and still get up and win, right?
very
And
True.
true.
that is
I
something.
like that.
That is something. that you should really, really remember. And a lot of people miss the boat on that one, right? But a lot of people see it. And what you should do is not be frustrated by the fact that Hamilton lost, right? Because Verstappen's the man. But um,
He's the
but
real
Like we're
goat.
but the
I
fact
agree,
digressing
that
somewhere
George.
here.
I agree.
but the fact that I'm allowed to digress is my story. Um, but the fact that there's a lesson in both, the fact that there's a lesson in both winning and losing, but also understand that you can have both scenarios and still win.
Yes,
Right?
that's very
Because
true.
they still won the constructors championship.
Mhm.
But isn't that how life is, though? I mean, you get both. Sometimes it might
That's
feel
it.
like you're constantly getting, shut down, and there are circumstances beyond your control that are just crapping all over you. But you just have to keep going until that final lap, and until that final lap is done, you don't know what the universe is going to throw at you.
It's not over until you did.
It's not over until the fat lady sings, fam. That's another
Does she
analogy.
still sing?
I haven't. What's the origin of that, by the way? I'll need to go check someday.
I'll also have to check.
Yeah.
Probably some movie where like everything ended after some fat lady saying.
Well, I mean, I was introduced to that saying from Independence Day, really. So
When did the lady sing in Independence Day?
no, she doesn't. They just use that as an analogy.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? It's probably because some fat lady sang, right?
Yeah. And then that was the end of the concert, probably.
Yeah, right.
So
So it's just as much as it's emotionally charging, you also need to understand that there's a lesson involved. As much as if you look at what happened with Hamilton's dad, if you watch that, Hamilton's dad was literally like he was with Hamilton and then he went and congratulated everybody else and then
Verstappen,
left.
yeah.
Because you can see that there's that emotional patience in this person. That's like I'm sure Hamilton must have been crushed, right? Lewis must have been completely crushed, but his dad was understanding of both scenarios
Yeah, his
because
dad's
he's
a
been
mature
there.
person, and he's got a lot of
Yeah,
appreciation for the way the sport is, and that's how F1 is. You can never
yes,
predict when.
yeah,
I said this to you earlier. You can never predict
yeah,
when someone's going to crash,
yeah,
and whether
yeah,
you like how Verstappen won or not, that is how F1 is.
yes, and
And
he won.
like
He was
his
good.
Hamilton's dad understood that, and
Yeah,
Lewis also, I think, in one of the interviews, he congratulated Max and the Red Bull team because he
he
also,
did. He
even
did.
though he was probably very gutted that he didn't win. I mean, shame he didn't win his eighth title. How sad, but he was probably sad about it. But he
Mm,
immediately congratulated the winner, which is the right thing to do. He's being gracious in defeat. But he
yeah,
understands. He's been doing this so long. He understands how F1 is, and how many times in his life has he benefited from those scenarios? He knows how it goes.
yeah, yeah, for
He
sure.
knows full well.
It,
Yeah.
it's difficult. It's very difficult, but if you can find it within yourself to be like Lewis's dad, right? To be the person that understands. I don't say you have to be calm in every scenario, right? You can be emotionally charged, but to be accepting of the situation as it is, right? And moving forward from there will stand you in very, very good stead. And I think that's something that if I could wish on people would be something that I would.
If you don't have a dad like Lewis's dad, be the dad like Lewis's dad.
Okay, yeah,
very true.
yeah,
Well, be the
that's
person
good.
you really want to kind of be
I'm
anyway.
using the
Yeah,
dad as the
Normally, yes.
placeholder, but yes, be that. If someone can't see, the lesson or the value in things, then help them gain that perspective. Obviously, be sensitive to them, but try and help them see the perspective, and the like encourage their emotional development.
Yeah. Because you know how people, when they get into situations, they always, sometimes you just, when you're in there, you can't see it. Your anxiety takes over, your mind's running 1,000 paces. But if you can learn how to see the center in all of that, it helps you quite a lot in going forward and moving forward.
Mm. Yash was asking about the phrase "It ain't over till the fat lady sings."
Yeah.
Apparently, in 1978, a sports writer called Dan Cook coined the phrase. It was when he was asked when the opera is ending, and he said, "It's not over till the fat lady sings."
There we go.
So it is about
Yeah,
a large lady singing at the opera. She was the headline act, and until she's done, it's not over.
okay then. As we
Fair
There
enough.
it is.
surmised.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, man. Well, guys, I guess that's a wrap on this episode. But we still have one more thing to discuss.
Heyo.
Yeah. But wait, there's more. There's
Oh
more, you
boy.
say? Yeah, listeners. So,
Go ahead.
well, there was a drum roll. Yeah, forgot about that. Thanks for queuing me up. Yeah, so I guess the next year, we have a few plans for this podcast. And one of those plans is retitling the podcast name as or the channel as one of our first big tasks, just a rebranding from it as well. So it's no longer going to be called the Bro colon Code. It is now going to be called the Three Wise Potatoes or Three Potatoes. I can't remember.
The three wise potatoes. I think we
The
have
Three
a fair
Wise
amount of
Potatoes.
wisdom.
Yes, yes, yes. That's the one we're going to call
Whether
it.
it's good
Three
wisdom or
Wise
bad wisdom
Potatoes.
is debatable, but it's there. It counts.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be calling ourselves, I guess, in the new year. One of the reasons for the change was that we felt the bro code was a bit too gender specific, um, and we wanted to reach just a larger audience
Yeah.
than we currently do now. So, because this isn't about gender, it isn't about race, creed, color, um, you know,
No, it's not meant to
any
be
of those sort
Cult
of
limiting.
things.
It's
It's not
meant to
about
be the
or
that.
opposite,
culture
actually.
or
Yes,
culture.
it's
Yeah.
very open to everyone. So we just wanted to rebrand it to be kind of agnostic of any of those things.
Yeah.
Inclusive.
And the three of us are, well, somewhat wise potatoes.
Mm.
So yeah, that's one of the changes in the new year. The second change that I'd like to discuss now, I guess, is we'll be opening up public polls and public comments and just a bit more interaction with you guys.
Hmm.
So I guess that's another level of
Yeah, if
that's
you have
another
any
level up, I
topics
guess.
that we could talk about, that maybe we haven't
Community
covered.
Yeah,
development.
that you want help with.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. Give us
Yeah.
topics.
So that's the second thing that we like to talk about. But for the most part, thank you every one of you for joining us on this journey for this year. It's been a great learning curve for us.
Yeah.
Hosting, I mean, we've all got a chance to host, we've all got a chance to ask the questions, we've all got a chance to answer questions as well, and hopefully we've delivered some valuable answers to all of you to perhaps use in your lives, as my opening comment on every single podcast kind of says, right? We always hope to add value to your lives some way.
Hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that I think that's it for our 2021 and our season one of the Bro Code, but we'll be soon changing to the Three Wise Potatoes. So, any last comments from you guys?
Nope. Have a good year, guys.
Yeah.
Rest of your
Yeah.
year.
Have an awesome year and all the best for the one to come.
Party hard.
And I'd just like to just take a moment quickly just to thank the both of you for
Aw.
always spending your time.
Oh,
I guess taking the time to kind of answer the questions and just be a part of this. I guess it's something we
yeah,
all
man.
wanted to
Thanks.
do,
Thanks
and we
for
finally got to enact it this year.
yeah. Thanks for being the gracious host.
Yeah, thank you for hosting. Thank you for organizing, getting the questions together, the platform, the recordings, the uploadings. There's a lot of hard work that you do behind the scenes that people don't see, but we appreciate it.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much, guys. And I guess with that, we will end and really hope everyone has an amazing rest of year and an amazing beginning to the year as well. So, cheers, everyone. That's it
Peace
from us.
out.
Bye.